Jeanette Bravo. We're back. And welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and it is show number 131. Happy to be on with you. Happy to be back. I was off last week, so we are back. I'm back to it. Excited to be here. Excited to be a member of the Education Podcast Network. Check out all the great podcasts they have on their site, and happy to be part of them or with them, as well as Voice Ed Radio Canada. Appreciate our relationship with them as well. So happy July, happy summer. Hope all is well. Lots going on, and I'm excited to talk to our guest today. I am going to get her name pronounced right because I worked on getting it spelled right first. We are going to meet Mandy Froehlich here in just a minute. Mandy's got a lot of job titles, but she's doing a lot of great things in education. She's a former innovation and direct technology director. She is a consultant, and she's a mom. She's a wife, and she is the author of 3 books working with Edgematch. So really excited to talk to Mandy. She just released her latest book, her 3rd book, Reignite the Flames. And we're going to be talking to her about teacher mental health, teacher wellness, and the state of education. So I hope your summer's going well. If you did your graduation, I hope it went well for you. And if you haven't done it yet, if you pushed it back, you delayed, and I know you're sorting through those things, I wish you the best. Sometimes you get your hands dirty, right? Us as school administrators, us as parents, you just get your hands dirty, right? A lot of times as a school leader, it just lands on you. It just, you can't help it, right? And the reason I'm sharing this, unbelievable. I had about 10, 15 minutes with my wife the other day. It was a beautiful evening. It cooled off here in the Northeast, and we were walking our dog, Ruby, and Ruby started kind of sniffing in something. Ruby started sniffing a little more and then a little more. Before you know it, she was into something. So I said, hey, get over here. And, she's got a thing of leaves in her mouth. So I reach in there and I get the leaves. And what was all over the leaves? You know what was all over the leaves. And it got all over me. It got all over her. And I was like, oh, this is disgusting. Oh, my God, this is so gross. And you know what? Washed up. We washed Ruby up. And, right? Sometimes you just get dirty, right? You own a dog, the dog's going to get into something. It happens, right? And it happens in our field of education. It happens in our lives where it just doesn't go your way, right? And you do get that splash on you. You do get your hands dirty. It reminds me of the scene in Forrest Gump, right? Where the mud splashes up on the guy's shirt. And he's like, oh, man. But then it goes in the smiley face. And he finds a positive from it. So I share that story with you today because there are a lot of challenges happening right now in schools. There are a lot of things. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to have parents that are upset at you, and you are going to get your hands dirty. You just got to kind of keep rolling. You got to know that that's going to happen. And we're going to talk to Mandy here in a minute about taking care of our wellness, taking care of our bodies and our minds to be able to get through those hard times, right? I still love my dog, and thank God we had a lot of soap that I was able to clean myself off. So that was my opening segment about getting your hands dirty. Let's bring Mandy in here. I'm excited to talk with her and the work she is doing. Mandy, let's see. We're going to get you here. There she is, everyone. Mandy, welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond. This is Mandy Froehlich.
Hey, everyone. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Mandy, as I said, is a wife, a mom. She's a mom of 4. Wow. She is an educator. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's a consultant. Mandy, you have a lot going on in your lives, and you just released your 3rd book, Reignite the Flames. But before we get to that, Mandy, what did you think about, does that happen to you where you just, right, you get your hands dirty? What are your thoughts on the opening segment?
Constantly, and both in the way that I have 3 dogs, so I totally understand what you're talking about. So both the like practical, every now and then you find yourself with that all over your hands. But also from the standpoint of, I think it's just kind of the nature of the beast, especially in education. And I think sometimes the best lessons you have are the ones where you end up with something on your hands, and that you have to kind of work through, whether it's a decision you made or a decision somebody else made. I'm guessing you will probably never reach in your dog's mouth for leaves again. So we all learn a little bit from that, from those experiences. Might kind of pry their mouth open first to see what might be in there. Yeah, so I definitely think it happens to everyone.
And Mandy, kudos to you. Your 3rd book is coming out, Reignite the Flames. I know it's coming here, and I had a chance to read the preview as well as the first chapter. Tell us a little bit about that and the inspiration behind that book.
Yeah, so Reignite the Flames is actually a follow-up to The Fire Within, which was my first book. And The Fire Within was out a couple of years ago, and it started to address some issues that I saw in education in regards to teacher mental health. And there are a couple of things that, how like when you're meant to do something, everything kind of converges at once, and you're like, oh, that's what it is, and that was kind of something that happened to me. So I had things happening personally where I was dealing with some of my own anxiety and depression issues. Really felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about it because I felt like it made me weird. It made me a weird teacher. And I didn't want my kids to, to suffer, or the teachers that I was working with to suffer from that. And so it was meeting with a paraprofessional one day that had just come back from the hospital from being bitten by a student. And when I asked to see the bite, she kind of lifted up her sleeves, and she had bruises all up and down her arms, and from the kids that had been hitting and kicking her all day. And I felt like I would never want to go to a job where I couldn't imagine going to a job where I was being physically assaulted every day I was there. And so that was another piece of it. It was a conversation with a friend of mine who had very similar experiences growing up, but we were very different kids in school. And but kind of, even though that was the case, we both grew up to want to be educators, but kind of for different reasons. And so, she caused trouble in school, wasn't a big fan of school. I had so much drama going on at home that I definitely didn't need that at school. So I was like your sweet, quiet kid who got your paper clips when you needed, before you even needed them, and like never talked to anybody in class, and just did my work and did what I was supposed to do. And yet both of our experiences brought us into education. And that was how The Fire Within was born. From that, with Reignite the Flames, Reignite the Flames is actually the research that I've done since then to find out how, some of the ways that mental health impacts us as teachers and students in the climate and culture, as well as reasons that teachers disengage from the profession. And we talk a lot about burnout. People mention burnout all the time, but it really is so much more than that. And so Reignite the Flames is helping people put words to their emotions so that they can talk about it, and then subsequently how they can come back around and be healthier in order to love their jobs again.
Mandy, what would be some things that you would tell a teacher that maybe is disengaged or feeling burned out or feeling down? What would be some things that they can do to reignite those flames?
Sure. So it depends a little bit on what it is that caused the disengagement. And there can be several things kind of put together that can cause that. So I'll give my kind of my best example, because they're kind of opposite, is that we have burnout, which is what everybody kind of talks about. And then we have something called demoralization. And demoralization is when teachers are a little bit different than other than other professions, in the way that they get into the profession typically for this kind of moral obligation to do and be better, and to like make a difference in somebody's life. And so demoralization is when something, it could be administration, it could be politics, it could be an adult school bully, it could be a pandemic, makes them feel like they can't do their best job, and that they can't teach the way that they're supposed to. So with burnout, one of the things that is recommended is to actually pull away from work a little bit, set boundaries, practice self-care, do some of those things to try to get your energy back. But demoralization, which can feel very similar, demoralization, you're actually supposed to dig into what your passions are within education. And you're supposed to remember who your identity was as a teacher. And so I'll give an example. A teacher I was working with, wonderful lady, wonderful person. She was feeling, she thought she was burnt out, but what she was actually feeling was demoralized, because she felt like the curriculum had been made so scripted, that some of her best ways that she felt like she was a teacher, she couldn't do anymore. And so we talked a little bit about it, and when we came to that conclusion, what I actually told her was, don't pull back, like dig in, okay? So don't let the curriculum take over your life. Like you have these special gifts that you help kids connect to literacy. Then how can you take your gifts and fit the curriculum within that? And so it was more of researching, combining two different ways of being an educator, than it was actually pulling back entirely. And that's kind of the difference between, or the importance of knowing really why it is that you're disengaging in the first place.
Yeah. And Mandy, we have some people watching live. Certainly my mom is my biggest fan. She's always watching. Hey, Mom. But if you have a question or comment, please leave us that. I know Rachel's watching here, but leave us a question or a comment. And I'm a high school principal, Mandy, and we have a lot of school leaders watching. What would you say to us to try? What can we do to help support these people? What can I do to maybe identify some of these deficiencies or some of these feelings that might be happening in my staff, and what can I do to support them?
Yeah, so I get asked this all the time. And the one struggle with teacher engagement is that nobody can make somebody re-engage. The decision to re-engage really has to come from inside that person. And so one of the other pieces of engagement is that I feel it's important to try to educate people about engagement prior to them getting to the point where they're so disengaged they don't even care that they're there anymore. And so usually what I tell administrators is that they can educate, help provide professional development, provide professional learning on what burnout is, on what demoralization is, on how to help them find resources for anxiety, help them understand. I have a free educator self-care course. It addresses things like, how can you actually practice self-care in the classroom while class is going on? Like, what do you do if things start to get too much and you're getting overwhelmed? Like, how do you catch yourself before you just kind of get so overwhelmed that you go over the edge? Understanding some of those practical things in the classroom it is one of the things that you can do. Another thing that you can do is set boundaries. Set your own boundaries, and in order to model them setting boundaries. And this pandemic learning was a perfect example, where I heard of people getting up at 7 in the morning and working until 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. That is somebody, in the beginning, I kind of got it. Like you need to do what you have to do in order to get going. But there were some people that did that the entire time.
Yeah.
That it's not, nobody can sustain that. And so it's important to understand that boundaries need to be set, which means that if your student messages you or emails you at 5 o'clock at night, you are not responsible to message them back until the next morning. That's okay. Nothing is going to happen that's so detrimental it can't be taken care of the next day. And so as administrators, respecting teachers' boundaries and also creating your own so that you can model that. Don't tell teachers to not answer emails after 5 o'clock and then shoot them 6 emails at 7 o'clock at night. Like that doesn't help set, modeling, setting the boundaries. So I would say those two things. And then the last thing I always say is, again, back with the modeling, model self-care. Model doing some of those things, model reflective thought. As you're thinking through a problem or you're trying to deal with an issue, model the reflective thinking out loud. That doesn't always come natural to everybody. And sometimes people need to hear other people do it. And, talk about going biking on the weekend, talk about taking a walk in the morning before you go to work. Like, show that you're asking them to practice self-care, but you are also doing it yourself. You're making time too. And then the last thing that I usually say is a don't do, because I've seen it done. Please don't make self-care a compliance issue. So don't ask people to report on what they're doing for any kind of, especially not for an evaluation or something like that. But people, I had a teacher say to me once, I don't want to have to spend energy convincing my administration I'm okay. And that's fair. That's a fair thing to say. And so it can be a part of conversation. It can be that you're encouraging people that you're modeling the behavior, but definitely never ask people to report back on what self-care they're doing. Plus, it's kind of a privacy issue.
Yeah. Mandy, these are great tips. I definitely want to practice that. And I agree with you about the modeling. I think that's important. You get what you give, right? And people see and experience these things. How about you, Mandy? Where did this come from? Right, you mentioned about the fire within, right, and this is obviously this deep empathetic nature is inside of you. Where did that come from?
My empathetic nature.
Yeah,
I think that. I think it's just something. It's just like a personality trait for me. I've always kind of been that way. I'm a little bit too empathetic in some ways, and have to kind of pull back sometimes on things that I'm doing in order to protect myself. Because especially in the world that we're living in right now. I mean, oh my gosh, there's so many things to be empathetic about. It's everywhere, and. So I know other people like myself too, where the empathy piece, especially in education, is nearly too much. And when we talk about boundaries, that's one of the areas you can practice boundaries as well, and will be one of the ways that you can actually try to not get secondary traumatic stress or compassion fatigue, is by creating boundaries on your empathy. But I think that I always had kind of this empathetic nature. When I was a little kid, I was just joking about this with somebody. When I was a little kid, I used to go into the toy store, and if my grandma told me I could pick out a toy, I would pick out the toy that looked the loneliest. Like the one that might have had like a little missing button, or it might have had like what was that bear story? Like padded corduroy? Was that corduroy? I would look like the most, I'd pick out the most pathetic looking little animal, and she would always be like, why do you want me to buy that? And I'm like, because it's lonely and sad and nobody's ever going to buy it. So that's always kind of the way I've been.
That's a great thing. And I give you a lot of credit, because we do need to take care of our teachers. We do need to take care of our staff, right? There's so much attention on the kids and the learning, but what about our people?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm looking forward to reading the book in its entirety. And again, modeling this, whether we're virtual next year or back in, because our teachers are going to need that support. You recently have left the classroom now, and you're consulting and kind of full time doing that. Tell me about that decision, and what you're doing now.
Sure. So originally I left the classroom actually because I had become burnt out. And that's one of the, when I say everything kind of came in at once, like that was another one of the catalysts that came in at the time. And I didn't realize what it was. I was pretty busy blaming administration for everything. And I was super unhappy as a teacher, and I loved my students. That never changed. I love my students so much. In fact, one of my classes is graduating this year, and several of them have reached out to me, and it's just, I just love it. It's so much fun. I always love my students, but I felt like I didn't have a say in what was going on in my classroom, let alone what was going on in the school. And I felt a lot like I was being told to be innovative, but if I deviated from the curriculum, I was kind of given a slap on the wrist. And so I was stuck between this wanting agency in my teaching and being told what to do with expectations I couldn't reach. Yeah. And so I was super angry about it. And so one day I decided to apply to a different district for an entirely different position in an instructional coaching role with technology. And I got the position, and I found when I got there that I continued to be unhappy. Everything changed. There was nothing that stayed the same. But then my district changed, my boss changed, my role changed. Like, I was working with teachers, not students. There was nothing that stayed the same except me, and I was still unhappy. And at one point I went, oh my gosh, I can't blame anyone else anymore for my unhappiness. This is entirely my choice. And that is really, it's super pride swallowing when you find out that you are the sole cause of all your issues. And that you are the one that actually needs to change. So I started working on that, and it took me years to reengage. And I'm not saying that the district was perfect, that I left and everything that they did. However, I think that the way I handled it and the way I processed and internalized things was probably not the healthiest. And so I worked on it. I ended up loving my job as a tech integrator by the time that I left. I simply left for a different opportunity to be a tech director. And I left that recently in order to consult, because I loved doing my tech director job, but when I was able to go into other districts and see what was going on there and kind of compare them to how things worked at home, and I was growing so much as an educator myself that it was where I wanted to be. So that's how I ended up in the consulting role full time.
Well, kudos to you, and you're very self-reflective. You're very self-aware, and you made changes and adapted. It's really refreshing to hear you share that. It is.
Thanks.
And then your relationship with Edgematch, right? You're the director of author success. That's another thing you're doing, another job you're doing. How did that come about to be that? And then what makes an author successful?
Well, as far as Edgematch goes, when I was publishing, how I ended up with Sarah Thomas in the first place is that I was going around kind of doing what authors do and putting their books out to different publishing companies to see who would bite. And I put it to a couple publishing companies who told me that people didn't want to hear sad stories, that that nobody really wanted to talk about educator mental health. I had some people go as far as to tell me I was going to get people fired because we shouldn't be talking about this, and it definitely shouldn't be public. And this is, I mean, like, we're talking, this was like 2-3 years ago now, when really nobody was talking about this. And it's become a little bit more commonplace now, but I took a lot of heat at first for my manuscript. And when I went to Sarah and I gave her the project and she read it, and she messaged me like, absolutely yes, like I want in on this. I needed somebody in my corner like that, because I felt like I was just on that cusp of going, oh, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe this shouldn't have been printed, this shouldn't be published. And I was kind of right on that cusp of just pulling the idea entirely. And she was absolutely 1,000% supportive. And that's what I needed in that moment. And so that's how I ended up with Sarah. And since then, we just worked really well together on the Fire Within. And when I saw some things that I thought, oh, you could have a procedure for this and it would look like this, or you could take this idea and do this. And we just bounced ideas off each other, worked really well together. And then finally one day we were kind of like, we should do this all the time. And that was how it happened. Yeah. And I love Sarah Thomas, like I can't even put into words. She is one of my favorite people in the whole world, and she does so much good that people don't even know about, and she does it because it's the right thing to do. And honestly, sometimes those people can be a little hard to find. And sometimes people want the credit for everything all the time, or they want to make sure people know exactly what it is that they do. And she's just not like that. And I have a huge amount of respect for that.
Well, whoever came up with the job title is great, because as a fellow author, right, to work with the director of author success, like that, you're looking out for your people. So I think that's whosever idea it was a good one.
Yeah, thanks. We try. I started out as the director of marketing, and then it just wasn't what I was actually doing, because I was more supporting authors. And to be an author, I mean, nowadays, my goodness, you can do anything from self-published to go with a traditional publisher like Corwin, to a non-traditional publisher, or a hybrid publisher like Edgematch. There's so many different options. And so my recommendation for authors, which I don't know if a lot of people do this, and I think that it would really help as people are developing their idea, because a lot of people get an idea and they're so gung-ho on it that they just want to write the book. But what my recommendation is actually to get a presentation together about your concept. Put in all of the research that you have, think about how you would want your book to sound and put that in the presentation. Blog about it, talk about it, go out to conferences and present on it, get the feedback from people who are talking about it. Listen to the people who are responding to your blog and giving you examples, or things that resonate with them and stuff like that. Do all that first and then write the book. Because I've learned so much. I mean, I've been talking about mental health for years, and I've learned so much from writing about it and how people have responded to it, and from presenting on it and having people talk back to me about it. And in fact, one of the reasons that I have for disengagement in Reignite the Flames is teacher trauma. And teacher trauma, I list as 3 specific ways, although there can be more. One is school shooting drills, depending upon how they're done, because in Wisconsin, we do them in a kind of crazy way. There is students who have behavior issues to the point where they're physically assaulting teachers. And then the third one I didn't actually have until I was presenting on it. And a teacher said to me, I had a student pass away. And I had never had a student pass away. So that never even dawned on me, even though clearly that would be trauma, but I never experienced it. So I didn't even think about it. And so her and I were chatting, and she ended up writing a little blurb for the book, but she said, I had a student I was very, very close to pass away. And she was actually at the time working as a school counselor, and said, I didn't know if I was going to be able to grieve because I had to counsel, and but still had very much wanted to go through the grief process and had trauma from that. And it's such a learning experience for me, and that piece actually went into the book. And so I think it's really important to get out there, to talk about it, to find out what resonates with people, to hone your craft, to do all of those things, then write the book. Because a lot of people have ideas for books. Not everybody follows through with the pre-work that has to be done and the writing of the book.
Sure. And the great Dave Burgess is watching. Dave's been on the program, and he agrees with you, right? Teach like a pirate, to get those ideas out and get them out there. So way to go. There's a theme too, Mandy, with you and your books about the fire, right? The flame within inside, and certainly your energy, right? You have tremendous energy. Tell me about this, the fire within. Tell me about the energy that you got burning inside of you, because clearly it's that flame is in the book, but with all that you're doing in education, you got a strong engine in there. Tell me about that.
So that's actually kind of been something we've laughed about over the years with the fire thing. I just eventually I was like, I have to have fire on each one of my covers because of the first book, and so but I think where it comes from actually is, well, probably two ways. First of all, I'm super passionate typically about what I talk about. And so if you get me going, the arms will be flying, and I'll be, the voice octave will get a little higher, and I'll be super excited. And so that's literally the fire. But also I think I've worked really, really hard to find kind of my purpose in education, and to really figure out what my beliefs are in education. And I blog quite a bit about it. It's a little bit in Divergent EDU, which is my second book. But my purpose has been to support teachers, because I believe in supporting teachers. We best support students. I've been saying that for years. And I was saying it when it was not the popular thing to say, when people would respond to me and say, oh, you mean we should forego students for teachers? Nope. I just think we can support everybody. I don't think we have to throw anybody under the bus in order to support students. Everybody's important. And so it's not meant to be exclusionary. It's just understanding that I have, made that my purpose. And then my core beliefs, I have things like model the behaviors that you wish to see, and I've used those as kind of my, kind of my filter for everything that I bounce everything that I do off from there. Every decision I make, even when I was an administrator, if something didn't fit within my core beliefs, I knew right away that it wasn't something I was going to be able to go forward with. And so I've worked hard on that. Because I've worked hard on that, it's really been my foundation for everything in education. It makes me much more solid than, sometimes you don't really know what people stand for, because sometimes they're going with the wave of what's being talked about right then, or they fold under a time where it gets really, really hard that they have to talk about something that's not that's not popular. And those are the areas where you have to have that purpose and those core beliefs to hold you up. So I think that the fire would be in two ways. It would be the excitement and that I get. I probably get like a little heated when I start to talk. So it might be from that, but also the understanding why I'm here piece of it is important to me.
Well, that's awesome. I love the fire theme, and you'd fit right in with my family, talking with your hands, talking loud. So we'll break bread one day here, meet all these and come visit in Wisconsin. So hopefully the fire will get you through rapid fire, because that's the wrap up portion of our show here. Mandy, these are quick answers.
Okay, I'm ready.
And then bam, the first thing that comes. So you're involved with book publishing. What's the last book you read for pleasure?
Oh my gosh, for pleasure. I read a book on the art of Reiki, actually.
Awesome. Last movie you saw?
Yeah. Karate Kid.
Favorite place to travel?
I love Orlando. It's one of my favorites. I would choose to go there every time.
Not today. You gotta wait.
Yeah, no, not today. You're right. Not every time.
You shared a lot of passions, things that you got going, and obviously the teacher wellness and all of that is something. What is something outside of education that motivates you? What's something that gets you going?
I think, to be honest, like with 4 kids, I don't have a ton of hobbies. Self-care is something I really have to be intentional about. We did just move, and so kind of updating our house and things are something I've been interested in and spent a lot of time on Pinterest. But during a normal time, I kind of love to research weird things. And that's not something that everybody knows about me, but I'll read about ghosts and aliens and any theories that are out there on things. This stuff just fascinates me. And so if I have time, I love tracking tornadoes, like watching the real live storm chasers. Love doing that. I would do it for hours if I could. So I have weird hobbies. I don't admit that to many people.
What's something that gets under your skin? What's a pet peeve of yours?
Well, this is not going to be rapid fire because I'd have to think. I think I don't know. I have a lot of them, but it's not like I don't have pet peeves. I think it would be when people say that lazy people are the ones who do self-care. That would be a huge pet peeve of mine. Or sometimes people will say things like, recently I heard a teacher say to me, students are just babied. They don't have mental health issues. And so I think that when it comes to my actual, like I have a lot of other pet peeves that can't stand when my kids leave a pizza plate out, like, that kind of stuff, like put a new roll of toilet paper in the bathroom. Like it's not that hard. I have like those types of pet peeves. But for work, I think it would probably be the whole, I don't believe in mental health type thing. So.
Well, Jennifer Casa Todd thinks you're weird too. She likes your weirdness. Someone you'd like, yeah. Someone you'd like to meet.
Someone I'd like to meet. Oh, Daniel Pink, hands down.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah. Growing up,
he used to be Elon Musk, but he's not weird.
Growing up, living in Wisconsin is fill in the blank.
Boring. It smells like cows here a lot, and there's really nothing to do.
Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre?
That's all I have to say. I used to say Aaron Rodgers, but Favre's kind of a traitor, and people argue with me on that all the time. No, he's a traitor. So I would say if I had to pick between the two, I'd pick Aaron.
Lambeau Field is fill in the blank.
Expensive. It's big. It's beautiful, but expensive.
Yeah. Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life.
Oh, my wireless earbuds. These things, I only have one end. They're called Tozo. They were like $30, and I've bought $500 pairs. These things are phenomenal. Best thing ever.
Tozo. I'm going to give it a shot.
Tozo. Yep.
Short-term goal, professional or personal, 3 to 5 months.
Ooh, to stop being in my house and being able to go someplace again. Is that a goal? I don't know if that's a goal. I think that's a goal. I'm sticking with that one.
That's a goal for me, you, and everyone. 10 years from now, Mandy Froehlich will fill in the blank. Mandy Froehlich has made the discussions has normalized the discussions on educator mental health. Amen. If someone's thinking about publishing a book that they're thinking about doing, why should they go with Edgematch?
Oh, because we have a director of author success. And she meets with you and she helps you through your process and rule the world. Jen just said rule the world. And she can help you through those things. So I would say your first reason to go with Edgematch is Sarah Thomas, but your second reason to go is for the director of author success.
who does hold your hand through the process. I agree, and I'm looking forward to building that relationship. I know you had a favorite quote here, Mandy. We're coming to the end of the program, but I know you had a favorite quote for us.
Okay, so it is, and you can find this in The Fire Within. It is okay. It's okay if you fall down and lose your spark. Just make sure that when you get back up, you rise as the whole damn fire. And that is Colette Worden.
Beautiful. That is perfect. Mandy, how can people get in touch with you if they have questions about the books, if they have questions about mental health, or if they're looking to hire you as a consultant? How can they get in touch with you?
So I'm Froehlich M on Twitter. It's FROEHLICHM. Mm-hmm. And then also you can find me at www.divergentedu.com or mandyfroehlich.com. Either one will get you there, but Divergent EDU is easier to spell. And all my books can be found on Amazon. So The Fire Within, Divergent EDU, and Reignite the Flames. Make sure you look for the education version of Reignite the Flames. Also, if you decide to become an author, please search your title on Amazon first to make sure, because Reignite the Flames has some weird other books that are with it. So look for the education version of Reignite the Flames.
This is Mandy Froehlich, everyone. Mandy, you did a great job. A lot of friends watching today, Jennifer and Elizabeth. And that's right, David. Thanks for the shout out, the great Dave Burgess being with us. Mandy, this was great. You did a great job, and I wish you the best with your house and all the projects you got going on, and certainly your beautiful family as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Mandy Froehlich, everyone, check her out online and certainly the work she is doing. We're going to cue this music up. Signing off here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. Continue to go out and do great work in your schools and community. And Mandy's message today about taking care of ourselves, taking care of our people is a beautiful one. Mandy, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Stay on the line a second.